Please welcome Hamza Yusuf.
First of all, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to put a little caveat on what Ibu mentioned about the Mauritanian taxi drivers. Some of my biggest fans happen to be taxi drivers. I was with my father in San Francisco, and we were walking across the street, and this taxi stopped in the middle of the road and rolled down the window, Shaykh Hamza Yusuf, Jazakallah khairan. And then he drove off, and my father just looked at me and he said, do you know that person? But I will say why he said that I was beloved of God, and it has nothing to do with me. The village that he happens to be from, they're all convinced that they're all beloved of God, and they figure that anybody that gets there has to be beloved of God. So I just wanted to correct that. Anyway, this is a wonderful thing. It's extraordinary to see so many young people. We were just talking about Bob Dylan earlier, and when he spoke at the Tom Paine Award he was given back in 1963, he said it was very depressing to see so many bald-headed people in the audience, and that he really felt that the world's problems had a lot to do with the fact that bald-headed people were largely running the world, and he thought people with more hair should run the world. So I do agree with that basic philosophy. I think the young people need to have a coup d'etat and really get rid of a lot of the old people that have been around far too long and have become far too cynical, and that's one of the major problems with being around too long. I used to be convinced that as you got older, that mortality became more present in your life. What I discovered is actually as people get older, immortality becomes more present because they've been there so long. Up and you have your tea and your coffee and your marmalade and your toast, and it's Groundhog Day, and nothing seems to change. And if you remember in Groundhog Day, he just kept trying to kill himself. He was trying to get out of this thing. So I think, a lot of people, young people, I think, are often much more aware of their mortality. And that's certainly what happened to me when I became a Muslim. What precipitated was a car accident when I was 17. I actually converted when I was 18. But mortality was just so present in my life. And I think in many ways, my own life is a testimony to both the problems, what's wrong with religion, and what's right with religion. Because my own religious evolution was one that I've been through many different stages in my religious experience, and it's enabled me to understand a lot of different religious phenomena out there. Because when I see people at different stages, I see myself. And I'm hoping that some of the extraordinary saints that I've been fortunate to meet in my life, I hope that maybe that's the future, to be in that state of tranquility and peace that religion is supposed to bring people. But religion is an evolution. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I really came here on extremely short notice. So I was in St. Louis, and the people that I was working with were finagling whether I could come here because I have to go to Washington, D.C. tomorrow morning. But what I would like to say is that there are probably, I think, many dangerous things in the world. And the world in many ways is a dangerous place. It's a precarious place to be, certainly, and life and death is one heartbeat, one breath separates the two phenomena. Of all the things that are dangerous in the world, I really have come to believe that religion probably is at the top of the list. It is an extraordinarily dangerous human phenomenon. I would put up at the top of the list with religion political certitude. And under political certitude, I would say that inclusive of that is nationalism and also utopian political philosophies in which people believe that the only way to organize human societies is my way, whether it's radical Marxism or free market capitalism or whatever type of social organization people are absolutely certain is the end of history. There's nothing beyond it, that we've arrived. And the third thing that I would put at the top of that list is cynicism. And cynicism is a wonderful word. It's from a Greek word which means dog-like. Dogs bark at everything. The cynic is a human phenomenon. I think one of the great challenges of life is that you will either become a cynic saint. That's what the world will do to you. And you see people, I see people all the time, and I really want to ask them the question, what in the world has the world done to you? Because the world can really rip people apart. It can tear them up. It can destroy human hearts. It can take people that have a goodness and turn them into such cynics that they no longer believe in goodness. They can't trust the people that are in front of them. One of my favorite films is, in fact it is my favorite film, is Akira Kurosawa's Redbeard. And that film is about a Japanese doctor who works in a free clinic for poor people in 16th century Japan. And a very arrogant doctor who wanted to be the shogun's doctor ends up being appointed to work with this doctor in this free clinic that's funded by the state. All the people in the clinic are poor people. And he's very contemptuous, refuses to wear the clinic uniform because that if he walks out in public with it, poor people are allowed to come up and ask for help from him. But what happens, there's a wonderful scene, and it's about his transformation into a human being. But there's a wonderful scene in there where Redbeard says to him, you know, we don't really treat people here because there's only two diseases in the world, ignorance and poverty. And that is what we have to treat. Here we're only dealing with the symptoms. And I think that is at the essence of what we're dealing with out there. And I would add to poverty extreme wealth. I think that's probably a third problem with the world. But, and I'm talking about real pharaonic type of wealth that's out there, and increasingly so. I would say that religion is dangerous because religion is about absolutes often, and religious people tend to be incapable of interiorizing fallibilism, the fact that I can actually be wrong. One of the things that Imam Shafi'i, who's a great 2nd century scholar of Islam, one of the things that he said, somebody asked him how he achieved such good character. And he said, whenever I would hear my critics, I always took their criticism seriously. Because often your critics will reveal to you things about yourself that your friends won't, because love blinds, like the Arabs say. People that love you are often blinded to your faults, which is why in marriages, when they begin to fall apart, suddenly the spouse notices a mole that they never noticed before, or certain aspects of their spouse that they really didn't notice, because when they were in love, those faults were veiled from them. So another thing that Imam Shafi'i said is that he never debated anyone except that he asked that God would reveal the truth on that person's tongue so that his ego could submit to it. The danger of being right. And intellectual arrogance is a major problem in academia. It's a major problem with people that things come very easily intellectually for them. And religious people who often have very rigorous trainings. If you go through a serious religious training, you often study in the Islamic tradition, you study logic and rhetoric, you study grammar, and you study debate, khataba and hiwar,